G'day guys, I'm D-Mac from NBA Fantasy Bible, and along with me, as always, is Kayla Fonte, and together we're Between Two Hoops. Kayla, how are you going?
I'm doing really well. How about you?
Yeah, doing really well. It's been a minute. It's been a couple of weeks since we last recorded, but great to be back. Christmas season. I've had a
Mhm.
couple of Christmas parties. I've got a holiday coming up overseas for Christmas as well. Hectic with work coming to the end of the year. What about you? How have you kept yourself busy?
Oh, I've kept myself busy with work. I'm in retail, so it's a very busy time for us right now. And yeah, just like some fantasy stuff as well. I've taken a little bit of break, but happy to get back into it.
I've been the same, and maybe some followers on Twitter have noticed I've been
Mhm.
tweeting a little bit less, but feel re-energized after the last couple of weeks. So looking forward to getting back into it. Speaking of getting back into it, shall we get into our buy lows and sell high show?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it indeed. So headlined with Joel Embiid, but we'll go through that very shortly. Let's start off with the most traded players. So this will be a nice segue into getting into our buy lows first, but headed by Lauri Markkanen, and it's been a consistent theme. So this is the most traded players over the last 24 hours. This is as of Yahoo as of today. So Lauri Markkanen at number one, Desmond Bain at number two, and Edwards number three is somewhat surprising, but Lauri and
Mhm.
Desmond Bain has been somewhat of a consistent theme over the last probably month, maybe 2 months. But yeah, we'll get into our buy lows and sell highs, but anything of note on this list that really stands out?
Yeah, just like we were talking before, most of the names on these lists are buy lows, and they're going to appear in the show. And an interesting one for me, though, is Tyrese Halliburton. I think even though he is starting to do better, a lot of people are still just frustrated with him. So I can definitely see why he's on the top 10.
Yeah, a lot of inconsistent play, and it's a funny one. He's playing really well at home and playing poorly away from home as
Mhm.
well. Indiana have just been quite disappointing so far this season when you compare it to last season. But yeah, a lot of that is related to how Tyrese Halliburton is playing. So he's been on our buy lows show before. He's not going to be on there tonight, but it's very interesting top 10 just in the last 24 hours. But let's get into our list. And we do have Larry Markkanen at the top of our list, and this doesn't mean he is our number one buy alone. I'll take you through why in a minute, but what we've done is guys who have been the lowest ranked, we've put at the top. So lowest to highest rank, and we'll take you through those 9-cat rankings very shortly, as well as points league rankings. But let's make a start with Lowry himself. So over the last 2 weeks in 9-cat, and thank you again to hashtag basketball. So go check them out at hashtagbasketball.com. Last 2 weeks, straight 9-cat ranking, 235th. In points leagues, 130th. So much improved or much better in points leagues, which is quite surprising for Lowry because that's not what we're used to. But just look at the field goal percentage. That's really disappointing. And it's been quite a common theme throughout the season.
Yeah, and even looking at his points too, like 15.5 for the past 2 weeks. He's averaging a little bit less this year at 18.6. Last year he had 23, but it's still underwhelming. You don't really expect that from a star. And then even as we mentioned every single show, there's still those shutdown concerns that'll happen at some point down the stretch.
Absolutely. So we say buy low, but buy low and be cautious because you don't want to offer
Mhm.
too much. So yeah, buy really low. This is a great roto play where a games cap roto situation, but most of us do play head to head. So just be mindful of that. And as Kayla alluded to, just it will come down to some Utah shenanigans come late season. He can't be traded as well. So there is that no trade situation with Lowry. So don't expect him to go to a better situation or a playoff contender because he's going to be stuck with the Jazz for a little bit longer. Now, just to give you some context, what is he? What is he worth on the trade market? So, in the last 24 hours, Yahoo's just provided us with some data. Lowry has actually gone for CJ McCollum, and we'll get to CJ very shortly, but that's an interesting trade. Lowry also has gone for Cam Johnson. Again, he'll appear in this show as well as a sell high. So that's the perfect situation of sell high and buy low. Lowry for Jordan Poole, our boy Jordan Poole. That's an interesting one. Where would you go on? Let's go those first three. Who are you taking? Lowry over McCullum, Lowry over Cam Johnson, Lowry over Jordan Poole.
I think I'd rather go with McCullum. Just because with Poole, yes, he started off the season really hot, but he's cooled down since then. Cam Johnson, I'm not really a big fan of, and I'll talk about that more in depth later. I think McCullum is just the best pick here, and he's someone that I could probably flip for something a little bit better.
Yeah, and we will talk about CJ McCollum on our buy low show here, just because there's quite a few injuries still at the Pelicans, and I think he's got a lot of room for improvement. But yeah, some interesting takes there. Some other trades: Lauri for Suggs and Amen Thompson. Again, these trades don't give us an indication of the type of league, number of teams in the league, whether it's a points league versus a category league, whether it's a dynasty league versus a redraft league. These are just some straight numbers and some straight names as well, just to give you a feel of what's actually going on in a lot of Yahoo leagues at the moment. But yeah, Lowry and Dyson Daniels for Jalen Brunson. Yeah, I'd take Brunson's side, but
Mhm.
I don't know. Dyson, I know that you love Dyson. He's your fantasy boyfriend.
He is. It'd be hard to give him up, but I do kind of like that trade. Like Brunson, I mean, it's very enticing.
Very enticing. But that last one, man, that is a
That's
bit of
crazy.
that's a shot to the guts. Lowry for Benedict Mathurin. And yes, he was a sell high a number of weeks ago, but he's really cooled off recently. But Lowry for Mathurin and Rissa Shea. Oh, wow,
That's
you
nuts. Give me
really,
the Laurie side of
yeah.
that. That's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
100 days out of 100 for sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
just to give you an indication of what he's going for on the open market. Now, we mentioned CJ McCollum, but over the last 2 weeks, 165th in NICA, and yeah, slow to ramp up after returning from injury. But I think now is a great opportunity to buy a low. 53rd in points leagues. So yeah, he's really gunning it. And a lot of the discrepancy between cats and points leagues comes down to those shooting splits. Just look at those.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're ignoring the shooting splits, the rest of his numbers are pretty similar to what he usually produces. So that's why there's not really that big discrepancy in his points leagues ranking over the past few weeks. But it all just comes down to the shooting. And I don't think that's not sustainable. It's going to come back up. So I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, even the blocks, 0.3 blocks. And yeah, he's playing in the guard position, but over the years, he's given you some decent block numbers as well. Not to mention, there's still quite a few injuries. So Zion Williams is still, don't know what his definite timeline is there. Brandon Ingram's just been injured as well. So he's going to miss some time and probably quite a substantial amount of time. So great opportunity for CJ to really build up that value. And perhaps you buy low now and as you mentioned earlier, you can flip him for a little bit more
Mhm.
down the track. Next guy, Jarrett Allen. We spoke about him on our last show, but it seems like since Evan Mobley's really taken a step forward, Jarrett Allen, and we'll speak about Donovan Mitchell very shortly, but Jarrett Allen and Donovan Mitchell have sort of taken a step back, and a lot of the output from Jarrett Allen has been diminished somewhat in the last couple of weeks, particularly 159th in 9cat. Thank you again, hashtag basketball. 144th in points league rankings, standard points league rankings in the last fortnight.
Yeah, and the blocks numbers here are really glaring, like zero point 0.1 per game. I mean, he's not the biggest shot blocker, but you still expect a lot more than zero point 0.1. And even the points and rebounds here, he's averaging just under a double double. We expect double doubles from him, and that's the problem. I think he'll bounce back too. Mobley has elevated his game as of late, but I think he's gonna slightly come back down to earth, and Allen will improve.
Yep, I agree. And yeah, zero point 0.1 blocks is completely, yeah, that's not going to continue. I think it's going to
Yeah.
be closer to 1.1 as opposed to 0.1. So huge room for improvement for Jarrett Allen there. Next one, Ivica Zubac. He started off the season like a house on fire. He's come back to earth, but really in 9cat, it's been his free throw percentage that's really let him down. Any other notes here? 91st in points leagues over
Mhm.
the last 2 weeks as well, which is a lot better, but still quite disappointing.
Yeah, I was even looking at his game log earlier. We really count on Zubac for those double doubles, and I think he had 3 games recently where he didn't reach that mark. So that's been a little bit disappointing. Even the points too have kind of dipped a little bit. Obviously, he's not a big points guy, but you still expect a little bit more than I think he was getting like 6 or 8 for a couple of games. So that's been underwhelming.
Yeah, now we did get some news that Kawhi Leonard could be returning soon, training again, which is fantastic news for him. Is that going to impact? Obviously, it's going to impact the likes of Norm Powell, James Harden. Is it going to impact Ivica Zubac as well?
I think it will, like, very, very slightly because his points have been a little bit elevated this year. He's taking on a little bit more offensively. So I think if anything, his points per game will decrease a little bit.
So it's interesting. We've got him on the buy low list, but if you look at the entire season, perhaps he is a sell high. But yeah, right now, over the past 2 weeks, definite buy low candidate. Next one, Desmond Bain. We've spoken about him pretty much every single episode this season as a buy low. I think the window is still open. Last 2 weeks, 126. Over the last 7 days, and again, small sample size, 72nd. So he's on the up, but I still think there's huge room for improvement. And just look at those 3-point numbers, 1.5 per game from one of the best 3-point shooters in the league is just not up to par.
Yeah, he has started to look a little bit better, but I think that window is still going to be open for a little bit longer. His stats just really haven't been eye popping, especially his offensive production over the past few weeks. They just haven't been what we expected them to be. He also has been dealing with a little bit of toe soreness, so he's missed a couple of games, I believe. Then also could contribute to frustrating managers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Frustrating managers on top of some potential other injuries and absences on their team does allow a real nice window for you to buy low on certain plays, including Desmond Bain. Next guy, Pascal Siakam, one of your old boys, but now with the
Mhm.
Pacers, of course. You're looking at those numbers, nothing really stands out as being obnoxious and terrible, but he's just been really mid over the last couple of weeks. And he has had a very solid season, but yeah, just disappointing, just a little bit mid over the last fortnight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You expect just a little bit more from a player of his caliber. Nothing like extraordinary or anything, but like that. But yeah, like you said, he's just been mid. You expect a bit more. Like even the points, like you want about 20-ish per game, right? So I don't know. Still plenty of time.
Still plenty of time, probably reflective of just how Indiana are going, inconsistent,
Hmm.
similar to how Halliburton is going as well. Next one, Steph Curry. Now, he would have been our poster boy if not for the last game where he really had a fantastic game. But again, recency bias is a thing. So it may be quite difficult to now acquire him for low. But if people are looking at, let's say, the last 7 days or even the last fortnight, some pretty disappointing numbers here. And you look at the field goal percentage, that's just real un-Steph like.
Yeah, even his free throw percentage too. I believe he's usually a little bit higher than that. Like he's definitely in the low 90s. So that's been a little bit not too bad, but a little bit surprising. And even looking at his defensive production too, he can give you a couple more steals and even a little bit more blocks than that. And even looking at his game log too, his scoring has been slightly down over the past few games.
It has, and we just know he's had a fantastic season up to this point, and he's shouldered a lot of the offensive load for the Warriors. But yeah, last 2 weeks has been quite disappointing. But again, like I said, that last game where he really just balled out, it's going to make it quite difficult to acquire him now. But lots of people do look at a bit longer of a trend as well. So perhaps there is still that window of opportunity. Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, similar to what we were saying with Jared Allen, but Evan Mobley. Here's one for you. Who's the best player on the Cavs right now?
Hmm. Looking at the season as a whole, I still want to say Mitchell. But looking at the recent stretch, maybe Mobley. And maybe I'm a little bit biased there because I have Mobley in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, well, for fantasy purposes, yeah, I'd say Mobley is the best player right now and probably will be, um, perhaps come end of season. But I still think it's a buy low for Donovan Mitchell. Last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
46th in 9 cat. Last week, again, small sample size, but 91st. And a lot of this, again, attributed to shooting splits.
Yeah, and last season too, he finished as a first round player. But right now, we were just looking at the rankings earlier, and he's 25th, ranked on Yahoo. So you expect a little bit more from a superstar like that, and maybe he's just going through a little bit of a rough patch where he's just producing mid stats. So I think a bounce back is definitely possible, and it might take a couple of games for him to get there.
And maybe this is some of his maturity as well. The Cavs are still winning. He's playing some really good team basketball, allowing guys like Evan Mobley to really step up. Darius Garland had a fantastic start to the season. He's been really solid up until this point as well. So maybe that's a little bit of maturity of Donovan Mitchell, where he just doesn't have to ball
Mhm.
out every single game and score 40 points a game. So I still think, as you've mentioned, I still think there's room for improvement here. But yeah, it could just be that he settles into that sort of mid-20s rank, mid-20s to 30s rank for the rest of the season. But again, that still is a buy low opportunity. Next one, Mark Williams, back from injury. hasn't played many games, 3 games in the last 2 weeks, or probably 3 games in the entire season.
Mhm.
Slow to ramp up, and we do expect this because he's been out for, well, before this, he was out for close to an entire year, which is
Yeah.
saying something. Great to see him back on the court. Nick Richards is still there, and Nick Richards is still starting. Would you expect that Mark Williams retains or gets that starting job anytime soon?
Not anytime soon, but I think he will eventually. The thing is, like, he just returned from an injury, right? He's been out for a long period of time, so it's going to take a while for him to ramp up. And obviously, the Hornets are going to be very cautious with him. He's going to miss a couple games here and there with injury management and things like that. As you can see, the minutes per game are 10. I don't think he's played more than 11. So it's going to take a while for him to really just be 100%. And they're going to want to be cautious with him. So he hasn't really contributed much lately, but I think he will get there as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, and the buy low might actually be dependent on how well your team is going. So if you're struggling, if you're really struggling with injuries, struggling to get the W's as well, so a bit of a losing streak, maybe this is not for you. But if you're doing well and you feel like you've got a bit of a buffer and you can buy low on someone like Mark Williams, I think that's the play there. But yeah, it could be dependent on your team and how well you're going in the standings. Next one, Embiid. So we open up with Embiid. Is it a buy low or is it a sell high? So he's come back for one game after missing a fair bit. Only played 5 games the entire season. So yeah,
Mhm.
extremely disappointing. A lot of people were still taking him in the first round, and we're very cautious about that. Um, I went against all of my own better judgment in one. It's actually a world league that we're participating in, and I went for an obvious high risk strategy and obviously high risk and low return. 5 games for the entire season, but in the last 2 weeks, he's played that one game. 83rd ranked in 9-cat, but 8th in points. And again, that's attributed to, let's see, here we go, turnovers. Again, I've
Mhm.
said it a lot of times. I don't completely disregard turnovers, but I definitely reduce the weighting of turnovers. So if you were to punt turnovers, or if you play in an 8-cat league, 20th for that one game. Put up fantastic numbers, but across the entire season, again, only 5 games for the entire season, he's inside the top 50, but only just for the top 50 in 9-cat. Thank you again, hashtag basketball.
Yeah, I think this one can go either way, to be honest with you. Because if you're looking at the season as a whole, I would say he's a buy low. But if you're looking at that recent stretch of one game, maybe in some sense he's a sell high. But for me, I just want to get rid of him if I had him in any leagues. That's my main priority. I didn't draft him at all.
Yep, I've got him in one league, and guess what? That league I'm sucking. So, yeah. Now, good segue into what is he actually worth? So, similar to what we were doing with Lauri Markkanen, but per Yahoo, here's some actual trades that have gone down. Again, doesn't tell us what type of league it is, but just gives an indication of what he could go for in your league. But Embiid for Brunson, I'm guessing we're taking Brunson here.
Mhm, definitely.
Embiid for Van Vliet. I would take Van Vliet in
Same.
a category league. Would you do the same?
I would definitely do the same. Yeah.
Here's one: Embiid or Siakam.
This one I actually kind of prefer Embiid. How about you?
Right. Yeah, I would do that. Just the ceiling of Embiid, I think, again, we're talking about Siakam being mid. Doesn't excite me. He's sort of
Mhm.
reminds me of Tobias Harris. He's sort of mid, doesn't really do a lot in head to head. But yeah, I'd probably take the ceiling, the higher ceiling of Embiid, and just who knows what could happen. He could just get healthy all of a sudden, just surprise us all. Unlikely, but
Mhm.
it could happen. But yeah, I'd probably do that over Siakam. The next one's crazy. That's the real buy low, sell high situation with Goga Badadze. But yeah, some of the trades that I've seen on Yahoo is just crazy. But yes, Goga Badadze
Yep.
for Joel Embiid actually happened. Embiid
That's
for
true.
Jakob Poeltl. What are you doing here? Your boy Jakob Poeltl.
See, I like Pirtle, but the problem is, like, I don't think his production is sustainable, and I'm really worried about the Raptors down the stretch.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with Embiid. You're still worried about if he's gonna get injured again, how much time he's gonna miss. So I don't know. It's availability question here. What do you think?
Availability. Not to mention that I think the Philly want him or want MB to be healthy for the actual playoffs. They don't give
Yep.
a rat's about our fantasy playoffs, but we do. So that is a tough one. That is an absolute tough one. I'm probably going to go Embiid, just high risk, high reward. Because if he does stay on the court and he is playing during the fantasy playoffs, he could be the real difference maker. And Pirtle, even though he's had a fantastic season up to this point, could actually be one of these guys that rests down the stretch as well. Again, a lot of water under the bridge to go through. But yeah, let's watch this one. But that's an interesting trade. Embiid for Adebayo, I think play it safe. Adebayo there.
Yep, definitely.
Embiid for Jimmy Butler. Now, risky on both sides.
You know what? This is a tough one. Probably Embiid.
Probably Embiid.
Yeah,
I'm with you
probably
there.
Embiid.
And Embiid for Jarrett Allen, the aforementioned Jarrett Allen.
This one I would go either way. I'll say Embiid.
Embiid?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I'm
It's
not even
tough.
going to give an answer. I'm not sure. I don't know.
It's hard. It's hard.
It is difficult. Next one, Austin Reeves, injured at the moment. He has been really disappointing. Got off to a really nice start at the start of the season. Has been injured. Last 2 weeks has only played 2 games. Terrible ranking, of course, but I still think he's a buy low. You probably only want to offer the worst guy in your roster if you're in a 12-teamer.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think he still has a lot of room for improvement, but I think too a lot of fantasy managers are frustrated, so they might be willing to, buy low, right?
Yeah, he's hovering around that top 100 mark. So in my eyes, even in a 12-teamer, yes, he's must roster. But when you get to that 90 plus ranking, they're the types of guys come closer to the end of the season where you're scrounging for W's. They're the types of guys that you start thinking about streaming their spot. I'm not saying that he's droppable by any means. I definitely think he should be on a roster. But yeah, when those guys that are hovering around that 100 mark, I think they can be dispensable. But I still think he has a lot of room for improvement here. And he's just going through a lean patch injury, of course, as well. But yep, buy low, but just don't throw too much out for Austin Reeves. Next one, Kawhi Leonard. We did hear news that he's training again. Is his return imminent?
I think we still have a little bit of ways to go here. And honestly, firstly, I'm avoiding Kawhi Leonard in any trades, but I think that we all know what he's capable of. So if you wanted to do that buy low, like I totally understand. You could probably get him for a pretty good price. It's just, are you willing to take the chance?
It sounds like you're not. I
I'm
am
not.
not either. I think he's a higher risk than Joel Embiid. Actually, question for you: who are you taking, Joel Embiid or Kawhi Leonard?
Oh God. I'm leading Embiid just because I mean he's a top fantasy player when he's healthy. But with both of them, there's just so many injury concerns that like I completely steer clear of both of them. How about
Yeah.
you?
Look, I'm probably going to lean Embiid.
Yeah.
5 games for the season versus 0. I'll take those 5 at the moment. I think Embiid does have. I don't know. Does he have the higher ceiling? He probably does. Yeah,
Mhm.
he probably does have the higher ceiling. And a question for you guys watching as well, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. But question for you guys: are you taking Kawhi Leonard or are you taking Joel Embiid? So let us know in the comments. But yeah, interesting one there. Kawhi Leonard, would you consider him a buy low or actually a sell high? If we get news that he is returning soon, is that an opportunity if you happen to draft him and he's just sitting and doing nothing on your roster? Do you just want to sell for whatever you can get?
I think that as more news comes out about his potential return, people are going to try and sell high. I just don't know how many people will take the bait for that. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
And it's not really selling high, it's just selling. Just selling
Yeah.
because you don't want that headache anymore, and it was just a bad draft pick, or you were hoping that your ILs would take care of it. Well, we all know that we needed all our ILs this season because it's just been one of those
Mhm.
seasons where everyone seems to be injured. Moving forward, sell highs. Now, there's our quick list, and we'll go through those one by one, starting with Walker Kessler. Fantastic season. Coming into the season, we were very high on him. So we talked about him at length on our Sleepers show, which you recall was probably a good 2.5, maybe 3 months ago now. But yeah, he's been fantastic. But look at the numbers over the last 2 weeks: 5th in 9cat, 18th as well. So he isn't traditionally strong And guys like him aren't traditionally strong in points leagues, but 18th in the last 2 weeks, outstanding.
And look at that field goal percentage too, 80%. Um, Completely unsustainable. That's going to come down a little bit, but even the rebounds and blocks have just looked fantastic. And I think even when I was looking at his stats, he was averaging, I believe it was 4.5 blocks over the past week. Yeah, he's a huge blocks guy, but 4.5, that's going to come down a little bit closer to 3.
Yeah, and we know a lot of that 9-cat value is sort of skewed by blocks as well. So 3.5 over the last 2 weeks, 4.5 over the last week does skew those rankings heavily. However, he's just had a fantastic season. He was probably being drafted around that 90. I know a lot of hype closer to the start of the season. Talk of him starting. Then there was confirmation that he was starting the preseason, so that obviously brought his ADP a lot higher. But yeah, you could have got him, depending on when your draft was, in the early 100s. So that's been a fantastic return on investment there for Walker Kessler. But we think that he's a fantastic sell high. And who knows, again, similar to Lauri Markkanen, what will happen with Utah down the stretch. And contrary to the end of last season, where there were talks of him being traded away, now there's talks of him being a centerpiece for the future. So maybe they just need to protect their asset, not from a trade perspective, but for a future perspective as well. So huge sell high moment right now. Next one, James Harden spoke about Kawhi Leonard. And if and when Kawhi does return, James Harden's going to get a bit of a haircut here. But
Yeah,
look at the
definitely.
numbers over the last 2 weeks. 11th in 9-cat, and that's including the 4.2 turnovers as well. 16th in points leagues over the last fortnight.
Yeah, we can completely ignore the field goal percentage there. Like that doesn't really matter in points leagues at all. And he's looked fantastic. I mean, the points, the threes, even the free throw percentage, just ultra efficient from the line. Yeah, the threes and points, I think that would definitely come down once Kawhi Leonard is healthy and he starts ramping up. It might take a little while, but it will happen eventually when they're playing alongside each other.
Yeah, and those numbers include one absolute stinker by himself, but it was the entire team. I think the Clippers got blown away in one game. It was on a back-to-back. The second half of back-to-back absolutely got blown away. So he had really poor numbers in that game, but still maintained fantastic numbers over the last fortnight. So huge sell high for him. But again, Kawhi being so, I guess, unpredictable with his health, if you can't sell high right now, just ride the wave because,
Mm.
again, coming into this season, massive on James Harden. He's shown to be that guy again. Not Houston Harden, but yeah, not far off. Next sell high, Malik Monk. Now, those that understand that DeMar DeRozan came back will probably understand that he's probably not that much of a sell high. But if you look at just the last 2 weeks, 12th in 9K is crazy good. Uh,
Mhm.
34th in points leagues is also tremendous.
Yeah, he looks fantastic. And the thing about Monk though is that he's a very streaky player. So he'll have those hot stretches and then he'll go cold. So I'm expecting that he's going to go cold at some point, especially with DeRozan back. But I mean, if for managers who are looking at like the past couple of weeks and they see all those stats, I mean, they're probably going to be more inclined to sell high.
And it's interesting. A lot of managers will go, oh, recency bias. And let's look at these last couple of games. You look at the last 7 days, again, small sample size, but 89th. That's probably what he's really worth now that DeMar is back and they're looking a lot healthier. But yeah, some actually look for a longer term trend. But last 2 weeks, oh wow, 12th, and maybe don't understand that DeMar was out and just go, oh, he's going to start for the rest of the season. That's great news. So for us, he's a sell high because it is, I know again, small sample size, but over the last week, it's trending in the other direction now. So sell high if you can. Next guy, JJJ, been really consistent this season, but been outstanding in the last fortnight.
Yeah, he's mainly a sell high too, just because like if you look at his stock numbers, they've been amazing. And we all know that he's good for his blocks, but he's been okay this year so far. So he's finally starting to turn that page and he's been looking really good. He's been a little bit up and down though, which makes me inclined to sell high during this period.
Yeah, I agree there. Yeah, fantastic stocks right now. 2.1 blocks per game is a little bit higher than his season average as well. But um, yeah, it's Jaren Jackson Jr. He's a
Mhm.
blocks guy, but he's also looked really good with his shooting as well. Yeah, putting out really good numbers. So high, but again, if you can't do that, you enjoy JJJ. Cade Cunningham did miss a few games, but came back with a vengeance and has looked fantastic.
Yeah, he's looked great. He's even coming off a triple double, which has just been fantastic. And even his offensive contributions have just really catapulted. I mean, looking at those assists too, 11.5. I believe over the last week he was averaging 14 ish. So that's completely unsustainable. I think he's averaging a lot less than that. He's still a good assist guy, but not that high. Even the threes too have looked great.
And again, for a lot of us that disregard turnovers, that ranking would be much higher than 17th. And those free throws, he's generally well above 80% consistently. So 66.7% on 3.8 attempts over the last 2 weeks. That's going to come up as well. So, yeah, we say sell high, but he's going to improve the free throws. But those other numbers, I think, are unsustainable. So sell high. And again, we don't know what's going to happen with the Pistons later in the season. Again, they could be looking to just preserve their younger guys and their stars of the future. Next guy, Ayo Dosunmu. He, for me, in my mind, he's still waiver wire fodder. But just look at the numbers over the last 2 weeks. He's been great. It wasn't that long ago that he was being picked up heavily off the waiver wire. But if you did happen to do that, and if you can get something in return, a top 100 guy perhaps, you do that move right now.
Yeah, because he's definitely going to cool off at some point too. But what I like about him is that like even when the team is fully healthy, like there are times where he'll just have those like pockets of really good value throughout the season. And I do have him rostered in deeper leagues too. I think he is a must roster in deep leagues. Standard, not so much. He's more of a streamer level guy. But yeah, right now you could definitely find someone who might be interested in acquiring him.
Yeah, you could convince them that the Bulls are going to make some trades. Levine's going to leave. Who knows who else? Maybe Vucevic does leave and just allows for more usage across the team. Lonzo can't stay healthy. Maybe you start using some of those lines as well in trade negotiation. So, yeah, definite sell high, but not many managers will fall for that. But you just look at those numbers, fantastic. So ride that wave, and it probably won't be too long until he's back on the waiver wire anyway in standard leagues. Cam Johnson, again, he's been on our sell high list for many, many episodes, but he continues to really be outstanding.
Yeah, he's really taken in a lead role offensively, especially with Cam Thomas sidelined for a little while. For me though, I'm not a huge Cam Johnson guy, so I'm a little bit hesitant with him. And I think this is the perfect time to sell high while he's providing this really good value because I definitely do not think this is sustainable. And there are still so many injury concerns around him and inconsistency concerns, especially coming off of last season and shenanigans down the stretch as well.
Nets shenanigans is, again, my favorite term, but yeah, Nets shenanigans down the stretch. So we'll continue to say sell high. He continues to put up fantastic numbers, but like you said, Cam Thomas being out has definitely helped him as well with his usage. Next one here, Santi Aldama. Not many people are talking about him apart from those that have picked him up off the waiver wire. Is he the waiver wire pickup of the season so far?
I think there's still a couple of other players who are in contention, but I think he's definitely been one of the top. And I'm even looking here, he's only 58% rostered in Yahoo leagues. That's it. And I think that number should be a lot higher. Yeah, not a lot of people have been really talking about him. I think he's very underrated. And he's been fantastic. I mean, I don't understand. Like even over the last week, he's ranked 31st in Yahoo leagues. So that's been great. And for the season, he's 63rd per Yahoo. So he's been fantastic.
Yeah, and then he's been really good over the last 2 weeks, hence why he's on our sell high list. But again, name value, he doesn't hold much weight in terms of name value. But if you can acquire him again for a guy that is top 100, I think you do that because some of those numbers are unsustainable. But again, not many managers will be interested in a Santi Aldama on their team. It's just not a sexy guy to have on your team. So you just enjoy it. But if you can sell high, you do so. But field goal percentage, and this is a big that loves to shoot. And we've seen it in the NBA in the past. We've seen it at international level, at Olympics and World Cups as well. But Santi Aldama, fantastic player, but definitely a sell high guy right now. Goga Badadze, we saw that trade. Goga for Embiid, crazy. So sell high, sell. There's a few injuries going on at the Magic, which I think has definitely allowed Goga to benefit.
Oh, definitely. Like two of their top players are out for quite a while too. And there's still that three-headed monster in Orlando that we have to acknowledge. But over the past few games, he's looked pretty solid too. He had one game with like 20 plus points. That's not going to happen very, very often at all. So sell high.
So high. I think when Bankero and Franz Wagner do return, it will impact him. Yes, they don't play the same position, but the flow-on effect. Does Wendell Carter Jr. continue to start? I've got a feeling that Goga will continue starting at center. So
Mm.
you got to hold him. I've got a feeling that Wendell Carter Jr. goes to the bench, Bankero returns, and then we go from there. But definite sell high opportunity because these numbers, 1.9 blocks over the last 2 weeks is great. The field goal percentage, we expect that, but the volume of shots is something we don't expect as well. Next guy is Norman Powell. We spoke about Kawhi. We spoke about James Harden. Similar situation, but I think actually Norman Powell is impacted more by Kawhi's return than anyone else.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's why this makes it the perfect time to sell high. He's only been back for a few games since his injury, but I mean, he's already picked up right where he left off. He's looked fantastic so far. And I think he's going to maintain a similar production as long as Kawhi is out.
I agree. And there's a lot of question marks around Kawhi and how consistently he will be on court. But I still think that Norm is a sell high. He's had a fantastic season. We picked him. He was one of our guys. A lot of other people were saying very boring, low ceiling. Yeah, very boring, but he's been fantastic and he's definitely propelled a lot of teams to success this season. Next one, another sort of boring guy, but Tyus Jones, just 9-cat extraordinaire, but 48th in the last 2 weeks. No KD, Beal in and out. So more for Tyus Jones to do offensively.
Oh, definitely. And a lot of managers, I think, were taking him like right outside the 100 mark, between 100 and 120. So the fact that he's providing top 50 value over the past few weeks, I think managers will be enticed by that. But they also still keep in mind that the Suns are shorthanded. But then again, based on what we've seen so far this season with KD being injured, they might be more inclined to trade for someone like Jones due to injuries.
Yeah, and another roto sort of specialist as well. Those, as we know, assisted turnover. He's the assisted turnover ratio king, 6.8 assists, but only 1.0 turnovers. Fantastic for roto. Less important for head to head, but still sexy numbers when you look at straight 9-cat rankings. But yeah, if you can convince someone that you can get yourself a top 50 or a top 60 guy, go ahead and make that change. Less impressive in a points league situation. They're 94th over the last 2 weeks, but we come to expect that from Tyus Jones. And our very last guy, RJ Barrett. A few injuries at Toronto. Now we've got Scotty Barnes sidelined. Probably, 2 to 3 weeks is our guess. We're still to get some news on the imaging. Hopefully we get some news today. But RJ Barrett, he'll have some sustained value while Scotty Barnes is sidelined. But I think if you can sell high on him over the next couple of weeks, I think you do that.
I think definitely. I mean, I think this is going to be his peak value right now, especially while two of their stars are sidelined, Quickly and Scotty. They're still going to be out for, I'm guessing, a couple of weeks. So he's going to have that elevated value for a little bit. And I expect just big minutes, a big offensive role. He's going to be the number one option. I believe he had 30 points in his last game. And I think we could expect a lot more 30-point performances for the next little bit. I mean, look at
Yeah.
that. Amazing.
Well, you went to one of these games as well where he
I
actually
did.
balled out, but averaging 25.4 points per game over the last 2 weeks. 70-39 cat, you would expect a little bit higher, but yeah, we know that he can be inefficient. 74.2% from the free throw line on, relatively high number of attempts, 5.0 attempts per game from the free throw line, which again, we come to expect that out of RJ. So we don't expect him to be a hyper efficient guy. 3.4 turnovers per game over that stretch is expected now that he's taken on more of an offensive load. But like we said, with Scotty Barnes and IQ still sidelined, he's still going to put up some fantastic numbers, at least over the next couple of weeks.
Oh,
But
definitely.
yeah,
And that's why
looking at
like he is more attractive in points leagues just because of those efficiency numbers. But even like for managers who are punting those categories, I mean he's great in the majority of the other ones too.
Yeah, he is a points league extraordinaire. 30th in points leagues over the last 2 weeks. I think he's top 50 guy across the entire season. But yeah,
Yep.
fantastic points league guy, but really showing out and being a fantastic pick. I think he was being taken around that probably 100 mark in a lot of 9-cat leagues drafts as
Mhm.
well. So yeah, fantastic value. And it is hard to find points off the waiver wire as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Maybe you go to acquire him, but it will be a short-term real boost right now. And like we said, definite sell high, and we'll be balling out for just a couple of weeks, and then we get hopefully the full complement of superstars back in Toronto.
Hopefully. I still expect big things from him though, even when the other two return. But yeah, that's gonna be his peak value while they're sidelined. And I got my
I think
Raptors
so too.
jersey on. Hard to
There we
see, but
go,
Scotty
representing,
Barnes.
representing. Scotty, oh, you got a Scotty bun.
I got a
Very
Scotty one.
nice.
Yeah. I wanna get a Barrett one
Okay.
too, but
Maybe
expensive.
that's a good omen, and hopefully you get some good news about Scotty today, and it's nothing too serious, not too long on the sidelines. That's a
Mhm.
wrap, Kayla, my friend. We are done with our sell buy lows and sell highs. Any final words?
Yeah, just keep monitoring the space. We'll be providing updates. So hopefully, like you said before, we know about Scotty Barnes' injury soon. And don't forget to sell high in RJ.
Absolutely. Don't forget to subscribe to all of our channels. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. We're on Twitter as well. You can find myself at NBA Fantasy Bible and Kayla at Kayla_Fonte. You can also find us on Blue Sky as well. So if you haven't created an account, please do so, because we like to post a lot of content on that platform as well. You'll also find us, of course, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But until next time, thank you so much, Kayla. Thank you,
Thank you.
guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.